thought we would try out reading one of my magazines that I have in my antique magazine collection together, kind of going through the illustrations, drawings, directions, advertisements, and seeing what we can find. I love the cover. The colors are beautiful, and I'm sure maybe a little bit faded it looks, but it still looks very romantic in a way with her flowing hair and what looks like berries filling her hat. Really nice. We start off, of course, with some full-paged advertisements. On the left we have some cabot corsets. They have no brass eyelets. I wonder what the pro of no brass eyelets would be. And you can get $1,000 for 5 best reasons why the cabot corsets please and satisfy. And on the right hand side we have an advertisement for black cat stockings for the little ones so that you save money and you save your time from darning. It's interesting to me that this is a stocking advertisement, but there's no image of the stocking, just a girl drawing a cat. Then we have the contents. There's quite a bit in this magazine. It's quite a thick magazine. We have a story. I'm not going to go into the stories here, but I find it interesting that they do have a few stories scattered in, and they kind of continue throughout the year over the course of a few months, so it incentivizes you to keep purchasing copies of this monthly magazine because you want to know how the story continues. Then we have a section for the collection of rare samplers. I like how the illustration here is kind of like a typical 18th century shepherdess costume almost. At least that's what it looks like to me. And we have samplers from the 1840s and the 1820s, and here we have one from 1715. So I like how they kind of go into the history of, you know, grandmother's sampler. So I guess if, you know, you were reading this magazine at maybe 20 years old in 1903, your grandmother might have been born in the early 1800s, something like 1820s, 1840s, if she were maybe 60 to 80 years old. So yes, this could have realistically been samplers that your grandmother was making. And then one thing I wanted to point out, which is they mentioned that a favorite theme of the youthful moralists was the uncertainty of life and the swiftness with which death comes to all, the young and the old. A verse which found favor among the young philosophers of New England was, "We see the youth in beauty's pride and highest health today, before tomorrow's coming tide, a lifeless lump of clay," which seems very, very heavy for youthful verses to be stitched into samplers, which I'm sure took hours. So you're spending hours stitching these deep and potentially dark verses into your samplers. Then we have another story, which I'm just going to go past a little bit. Some information on lilacs. I thought that was interesting. I love this illustration. I think that's beautiful. Another story. And then I think probably my favorite spread in this entire copy, which is the spread of where friendship is sincere. We have people and their beloved pets. I'm just going to call attention to a few of these because I just love the names. So we have Julia Marlowe and a cat named Possum, which is just so cute. We have Mrs. P. Campbell and Nanky Panky Poo. That would be a very long name for me to constantly have to call. At least in my experience, I have to call my dog's name from far and wide, so that would be a long, long name to have to call across the dog park. And I love how in some of these, the dog's faces or pets' faces are blurred just because they honestly can't sit still. And we have from dogs to cats, so we have the famous London Lyceum Theatre cat. We have Miss Maxine Elliott and her brace of brindle bulldogs. So cute. I love how we can't see the face of either of the bulldogs. They're all facing the other way. And even favorite horses. I do very much enjoy looking at the pets. Then after this story, we have another section that I found is it just reminded me so much of what I'm seeing is popular today as well, where people buy older homes and then renovate them to keep the style of when the home was originally built, but to add in modern conveniences. And that's exactly what this article is talking about, which is an 18th and 20th century home. So we have this 18th century home, which in the article it describes as being built in Elizabethtown sometime around 1742, but renovated recently to its original state, but to unaggressively include the conveniences of modern times and the present. So 1903 conveniences, while still kind of keeping the, I guess, look of the 1742 home. And it also discusses a lot of the history of the house and maybe who lived there. I used to live near Elizabeth, New Jersey, so I wonder if this house is still around. I'd be very curious about it. It'd be neat to drive by and look at it today, but I'm not close anymore. A few pictures of the renovations here. So we have the fireplace in the library. That chair looks very comfortable. I would love to sit there and read. We have the staircase from the library. I love just all the woodwork. It looks so beautiful to me. Then we have Governor Belcher's room. So that looks like the bedroom, which just seems like there's a lot of empty space here in front of the bed. I wonder if you just needed that space to get dressed or something. I'm not really sure. It just seems like a lot of empty room here. Then we have the family room with Whitefield's alcove. I'm guessing this is the alcove where you have a little bit of like a desk and a chair. I'd love to sit there and work, and a rocking chair. It's my favorite. Love rocking chairs. I wonder what this is here. To me, this looks like a set of beds, but if this is a family room, could this be, or maybe these are the children's beds? And that's why it's called a family room. So a family room meant something different at the time. I'm not sure. Let me know. I'm very curious because this does look like a bed to me and not like a couch. Because today I would think a family room is where you would come together and sit on a couch. Oh my gosh. And then we have the china closet in the dining room. This almost looks like a built-in. Gorgeous. And can you imagine having the china to display in that cabinet? That just looks absolutely stunning. And then we have the drawing room here on the right, which I love. You just have these mismatched set of chairs kind of randomly scattered around the room. And then you have this palm tree, which in my mind is very quintessential drawing room decoration of the Victorian and Edwardian eras. If that were me though, that palm tree would probably be dead very quickly. I tend to not have a green thumb at all. Then we have another story. And then we come to the fashions of today, kind of the meat, I guess, of this particular magazine, which is to talk about today's fashion and sell the different sewing patterns that they have available. And then we have fashions of London, dress and gossip of Paris. So you have, view of London, view of Paris, and then some speaking about by Mrs. Aria, what she thinks the fashions are going to be in London. She says that blue is going to be the color of autumn and winter. And we have some discussion of tea gowns here by Mrs. John Van Vorst. And these lovely illustrations, just so much detail in all these dresses. And then we have the early autumn dress fabrics with illustrations of advanced winter velvets for shirtwaists and dresses of tailor suiting in plain and mixed effects. I wish I could see these in full color and even touch them, but it's still fantastic to be able to see it. I almost feel like I can see a stripe almost in this fabric pattern here. I love seeing the texture in this one. The patterns here look so vibrant. Fascinating to me. And then, of course, trimmings and accessories. So I like seeing not only the basic pattern pieces, but also how you accessorize what you're wearing. So I like seeing here these kind of collars, I guess, and it all looks kind of black and white here, of course, because it's black and white pictures, but the descriptions show, this is a white madras bound with pink linen covered button. We have a pale blue linen bound with darker blue, which is number 3. We have number 5 is a black and white effect in linen. So I think I really like seeing all these descriptions to imagine what the different colors might be. I would love even more to know what colors the dresses are that they're wearing this over, to kind of see how they coordinate those colors. And then the belts. So most of these belts are tied in the front, but then the description here, and a lot of these are beaded, like beaded with tassels and things. But the description for number 8 says it's a black satin ribbon, which is uniquely arranged at the back through a dull gold buckle. So this is at the back of the dress and skirt. I'm sure that would look absolutely beautiful, bound at the back there. Of course, a huge accessory is the hats. So we have early autumn millinery, On the left, we have newest effects in morning headgear. So I would expect darker colors to be more appropriate for morning wear, but the number one here is a bonnet of white crepe with crepe bordered grenadine face veils. So that surprised me that a white hat would make it into the morning headgear section. And then on the right, we have outdoor hats. For some reason, the number one hat, I don't think I've ever seen it in any other fashion plates, not that I can remember. It's a very unique looking hat to me, and it reminds me very much of like Smokey the Bear. Personally, it looks very, it does look very outdoorsy. Then we have felt hats for children. They do look very cute, but especially some of these larger hats, like number 6, I would wonder how they stay on. I know they have hat pins, but for me, man, that hat, if I were that age and wearing that hat, it would be off immediately, and my hat pin would probably be weaponized. Then we have a millinery lesson, which is like 4 pictures of, you know, the wireframe and your materials, and then you put it on and you decorate it with ribbon, which seems so doable, but I'm sure it's a lot harder than it looks. But it does very much make me want to try creating this wireframe and decorating a hat to make my own hat. I also really love looking at these pages just because I love the decorations that they put between the pictures here. It's just, is this Art Deco? I always wonder if I'm saying, if it's Art Nouveau or Art Deco. I forget which one's which, but I love this style. It's very Alphonse and Mucha-ish, or esque to me. This section, to me, is an interesting thought exercise, and I wish I had a little bit more context. So this is called the Dressmaker for tailor-made outing suits. Again, illustrations are some of my favorite parts. So here we have a scissor and a shield, so she is sitting at a table cutting her fabric. You can see she's using her shears there. And on the right, we have a sewing needle and thread. So she is at her treadle-powered sewing machine sewing her tailor-made outing suits together. And as you read through these instructions, it tells you in great detail on how to make a particular outfit. So it is how to make an outfit that's, I think, illustrated on page 353. So it's number 7057. So it's this outfit here. And I would expect that this level of instruction would come with the sewing pattern that you buy. So in modern sewing patterns, when you buy them, a lot of these instructions are included there, but from what I've heard, I don't own any of this time, so I don't know, but from what I've heard is that the instructions are very, very minimal in the patterns that you buy, and maybe they found that that was a little bit of a hindrance for people buying patterns because they didn't really have the intrinsic knowledge to know how to finish some of these. It was assumed that you knew, but maybe not everyone knew, so they thought, we'll put an article in to go through the minute detail of how to put together every single part of this particular pattern and how to finish all the seams. So we have, you know, how you do the seam finishings. They mentions that you have to sponge your cloth before being cut, which I'm guessing is kind of like washing your fabric before you cut it. It mentions how you have to arrange the pieces so that you have it running towards the bottom with the nap, how to mark it out. And then it also says a proper length for a skirt of this character is 1 inch from the ground, or what is termed short round length. I always wondered what skirt lengths were like at the time and were appropriate for different outfits. So it's interesting to know that a short round length is 1 inch from the ground. So that's something that I learned from paging through this magazine that I didn't know before, what was meant by these different skirt lengths. So we have bias binding here used to finish off your seams. Here is the bottom of a skirt hem. It says to use corset boning tape here, or corset boning casing, to finish off your hem, and maybe even line this here with tailor's canvas, and that the bottom of your skirt should be at least 2 inches, if not longer, to add some weight and structure to the bottom of your skirt. They also have a very detailed description of how to do the skirt placket, and they have some discussion on skirt hangers. And I had a question of like, is a skirt hanger something to attach your skirt to your corset or the blouse or shirtwaist that you're wearing? Or is it more of a hanger that we think of the modern day where we're hanging up our clothes? Because it says, hangers made of bone casing may be attached to the inside of the belt over the hips when a patent clothes hanger is not employed. A patent clothes hanger, is that for hanging up your clothes when you're not wearing them, or is that for hanging your clothes maybe from your corset or your skirt waist to make sure your skirt doesn't droop? I'm very curious about that. The other thing I noticed is that when they're talking about the making of the skirt, they don't really speak about making a mock-up. They just say, cut out your pieces, baste them together, fit them to yourself, and then sew them together. So it's assuming that you can understand your measurements and the sizes well enough to pick one that is right for you so that you don't really have to make a mock-up. For the jacket, it does say that you're supposed to do multiple fittings because it is a fully tailored jacket with tailor's canvas, but it says to cut out your shape in tailor's canvas first, do the fitting with that, adjust it, baste it to your final fabric, and fit it again. So you do 2 fittings according to them with this jacket, but no mock-ups per se, which is just very, yeah, for me, I would get into deep trouble if I didn't do any mock-ups, and I'm not looking to do any more tailored jackets anytime soon. I think I was in way over my head already when I did my walking ensemble. Then we'll go into a little bit more of the pattern on the next page, but it says that you can do a new style of sleeve called the 1830. And I wonder if the 1830 isn't calling it that because it reminds them of an 1830s type of sleeve. Although the 1830 sleeve, which I think is this, has the fullness at the elbow. So I'm not exactly sure why it's called the 1830 sleeve, but I thought that was an interesting detail of what they called it here. So we have here the costume, we have the 2-piece costume, this is 7097, so the making of that costume was described in detail in the previous 2 pages, and then we have a few different views of the same costume here. So we can see it in the traditional sleeve or in the 1830 sleeve. We have it in round length, which looks to me like it's exactly floor length, and then we have the short round length, which, like was described before, is 1 inch off the ground. You also have the jacket, which is in 3/4 length, hip length, or long hip length. So that's very interesting to me that you can have, this just reminds me very much of modern sewing patterns where you have the basic pattern and then a few different views that you can combine together to create your own look that you personally prefer. And then I also always love looking at the basic patterns to show the outlines of the garments here. So 7097 and this one is 7103, which is a shirtwaist costume, which is also, I want one of these. I think this one's beautiful. I love this pigeon breast front here. I love the bishop sleeves. It's so pretty, I think. And this has round length, which I think is floor length here, short round length, which is the 1 inch off the ground, or we have instep length where you can actually see the shoes here. So this to me has taught me a few interesting things about what different skirt lengths mean that I didn't know previously. So if you know anything more about these lengths, please let me know. As I was mentioning, I like seeing the general basics of the patterns, and then they have these more stylized illustrations for some of them. So you can see how maybe someone took this basic pattern and how they would imagine that they would then customize it to themselves. So with these tabs here, they chose to have put the tabs down to the flounce length. I personally would probably choose the yoke length on the tabs. I like this version. They have the bishop sleeve with beautifully decorated collar and cuffs here. And you can also see the striped fabric that they chose. So I like to see how they kind of put together a stylized version together with a hat, hairstyling, some glasses, the purse that was chosen, and an umbrella. Just, it's nice to see it as a fully conceptualized outfit on how they would imagine that someone would make this and then wear it. We have a bunch more coats here, both with the basic patterns where you can choose a few different views, together with, again, the styling version, so you can see the hats that might have been chosen, gloves, umbrellas, bags. And something that jumped out to me that I didn't know about this time period is I thought the emphasis was very much on a small waist, or a big difference between your waist and your hip and your bust. And I think some of these coats definitely show that here, but it was surprising to me to see much more of this, I guess, not necessarily baggy, but it does look much more baggy to me, coat being in style, especially at that length. To me, it's just a very different style than I was expecting to see in the Edwardian era, and it was, I don't know, I learned something new when I looked at this page. The coat that I think I would personally want to try to make is this coat, which just looks so dramatic. You have this collar, you have a cape collar, these flowing sleeves, and a tucked or accordion pleated skirt. It just looks so, so dramatic. I can't even imagine walking down the street wearing, I'm sure it would be very warm, but the drama of just walking down the street wearing a coat like that would be pretty epic. I would like to try that. Then we have, if I could order one of these tea gowns, yes, please. I want this tea gown very, very much. So I've been thinking about maybe making a tea gown, and this one just looks so beautiful to me. So again, with a few different views of the same basic style here, you can either do bishop sleeves or these, what do they call them? Flowing sleeves. And I like the flowing sleeves, especially with how it's illustrated here, where you kind of have the cutaway at the elbow and your forearms are free. It just looks so delicate and light and airy. And to me, I picture these tea gowns in like light, bright, pastel-y colors. And that is suggested. I think they suggest it in a rose pink crepe de chine will be exquisite, which is how I initially pictured this. But as I kept on reading the description for this tea gown, it also says that you can develop it in a red voile with black lace insertion and edging. Can you imagine what this tea gown would look like in red with black lace? I think that would look fantastic. That's so different from any tea gown that I would have ever imagined, but it would be so, I don't know, it reminds me of a vampire almost in some way. I would love to step into the room ready for my tea wearing that kind of tea gown. What a dramatic color combination. What else do we have? Oh, a few more shirt waists and waists with a few different options. So very, very, you can see how flouncy these sleeves get. And then another thing I found interesting was the difference in the length of the cuff where it was tight. So you can see some that are just short wrist length cuffs, but some that seem to almost go all the way up until the elbow, and then you have the flare out of the volume of the bishop sleeves coming out there. Now this I haven't personally seen very often in Delineator magazines or other magazines, which is bridal outfits. So this is a suggested bridal toilette reproduced in white Liberty satin from a bodice and a skirt. So this bodice here is what they're recommending to do. You have a few options on how to decorate this bodice. So you either have it, you can do it with these stole tabs, which they decided to illustrate here, and they decorated it with orange blossoms. So you have orange blossoms at the knots and in the hair. Orange blossoms, I believe, were very, very popular as bridal decoration or ornamentation at the time, so that makes a lot of sense to have that as your bridal ornamentation. The tabs are very different, but I love the lace detail it looks like they added here, and then this is an evening bodice. But yeah, this is a bridal outfit. If you want to sew your own, you can order the patterns from the Delineator. This to me looks a little bit more like workwear. We have shirt waists and skirts. Here the skirt looks to be a very practical length. It says it's an instep length, so that seems very practical to me, nice and high off the ground. Again, the shirt waists here look very menswear inspired to me, with a collar and the bow tie and the buttons down the front. I love this kind of, is that plaid, would you call it? Looked, and having it in the diamond formation here. Interesting yoke on this skirt that I just noticed, kind of with the points at each of the gores. I don't think I've seen that before. That's a little unique in my opinion. Another favorite outfit of mine is this one. So this is mentioned as a tan serge with black taffeta as the accents here. There's something about these chevron accents that is carried from the bodice down to the skirt and then kind of mirrored in the hat that I really, really love. There's something about this outfit that if I could order this or if I could make this, man, I think I would really enjoy wearing it. I like also that they suggest that you can do this in like a navy color in the text and then do maybe contrast stitching here on these pleats. I think that would look really, like maybe a navy with a white. Might look very beautiful. This set of skirts is so dramatic. I think all the lengths so far have been, you know, the round length or the short round length or the instep length. But here we have medium train length in the round outline, and then we have a long train with a square outline. So this is a skirt for ceremonious wear, which I would definitely assume so, because I don't think a train is very practical in any other case. And it is also mentioned that it can be a very nice bridal skirt. You need 11.5 yards for the skirt, which is an immense length. And it mentions that the length is, here we go, from the belt to the lower edge, about 2 yards and 1/2. So the length on the long skirt is 2.5 yards from the belt to the end of the train. And for the medium length, it is 2 yards. So from the belt to the end, that's 2 yards. Wow, what a length. And then once again, this stylized picture. I feel like there's a difference between having the right skirt and blouse silhouette and making it look a little bit more period when you have the right accessories and the right trims and details. And I feel like this can give a really nice idea of how someone might have worn all these different pieces together and embellished them and made it look very just like you stepped out of 1903. Of course, some more skirts and underwears. Here we have drawers. I also have a pair of drawers that I made, but they're not quite this fancy. Again, there's something about these stripes on skirts that I love. And look how long this necklace is. I feel like I would get tangled up in that necklace if I ever wore it. Oh, I love these. These sleeves, I think, are my absolute favorite. It's also very interesting to me because sleeves are usually, as you notice, down to the wrist, but these leave basically your entire forearm free. And that to me sounds very comfortable. Oh, and then we have costumes for the younger ladies. Very cute. A lot of pleats. The sailor inspired looks, very, very popular, it seems to me. Very popular to have that sailor collar. Look, this is the basically mini version of that very dramatic coat we saw before. I can imagine maybe like a mother-daughter walking down the street in their matching coats. That would add, I would very much wonder where they're headed. A lot of drama in those outfits. More coats, and again, styled pictures of the coats with bags, hats, shoes, stockings, and you can see the lengths that are appropriate for different ages. Shirt waists and skirts. What I found interesting about this is it's almost tiered skirts, which seems more popular in the misses and young girl styles than the women's styles. Something for the younger girls in dresses. And then this is more for like infants. You have infant wear. Very cute. Boy suits, once again, very sailor inspired. He even has a sailboat. It even says sailor on the cap. So something about the sailor was very, very popular in children's clothes at the time. Then we have stories and pastimes for children. So children's clothes right into children's stories. This one is the mouses at home. I wonder why it isn't the mice at home. Mouses, okay. Look like they're climbing up some sort of broom. This cat looks terrifying. I guess if you're a mouse, cats do look terrifying. This page, we start to see some of the advertisements and lessons. So we're kind of getting away from a little bit more of the sewing patterns and stories and more into advertisements and lessons. This is what I find is often the case on how the Delineator is laid out. I find this interesting because it seems to me that this lesson is continued from a previous month. So this is lesson 8. And we have review questions from lesson 7, I guess. I don't think I can answer all these questions, but if you can, please feel free to try. So it says, give the definition of a gusset. I think that's usually like a triangular insert or maybe even a square insert to add more like flare or movement, either to like an underarm, or is that a gore? Is a gusset and a gore the same thing? Then it says, give directions for sewing in the gusset. Describe putting on band number 1. I don't even know. Describe band number 2. I don't see them. What is a flat fell? I know that's a finishing seam. At which end do you begin sewing a fell and why? I don't know. And I don't know why you would start at one end versus the other. So if you know, please let me know and tell me why, because I would very much be interested in why you would do that. Then we have tapes, hooks and eyes, and eyelets. So what is an eyelet and how do you stitch an eyelet hole? How do you stitch on hooks and eyes? I might try it. I don't like stitching on hooks and eyes, and I just kind of wing it each time, so I might have to try following these directions, seeing if that makes it any better. Buttonholes and button loops, again, not my favorite thing to do, buttonholes. I'd much rather do an automatic buttonhole, but this seems like there's even a way to hold your pins and needles correctly while you're doing this. So I'd be interested in following this a little bit more. And then more than just what's on the page in terms of the lesson, we also have the advertisements, which I feel can give us some really interesting insights into some practical things that were used often at the time, I would guess. So of course we have another advertisement for corsets, this time the Globe corsets, which apparently has 10 million wearers, which is quite a lot. They're the dollar corset, so each corset costs $1. Perfectly fitted and a trial will convince you. Wow. We have the modern safety pins, which will not pull out in use and cannot catch the fabric. Here we have patent invisible eyes, where the patent is in the triangle. So the triangle is apparently very special. This I do want to try. I don't know if maybe I can make one. And it's the skirt supporter. So is always ready for immediate use, no preparation required, holds waist down, skirt up, reduces waistline. The only one with aluminum metal parts, will not rust or corrode. Avoid worthless imitations. Goodness. Because I have that problem even in, my modern wear, is that my skirts will sag and the tops or blouses that I'm wearing will become untucked, which is annoying. But I wonder, this one I'm curious, I don't really understand how this one works. If you understand, please let me know. I don't really know how this keeps your skirt up and your waist tucked in, unless it's just really cinching hard around your waist. Do you want some pocket dental floss? This is waxed. It saves dentist bills. I guess it's true now as it was then. Wow, okay. I like the advertisements on it. So this is, I guess, paper crafts for children for the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. And then we have Horlicks malted milk. I've tried Horlicks before. I really like it. It was mentioned in, what was the show? The Midwife show. And I just had to try Horlicks because they always used it as their comforting drink, and I really wanted some comforting, and I very much enjoyed it. But I am lactose intolerant, so I don't get to enjoy it quite as much or quite as regularly. Oh, and more socks or stockings. This advertisement actually has a picture of the sock there. It's by the Amazon Knitting Company in Michigan. 35 cents for the socks. This is interesting. What is this? A mile-deep chasm carried thousands of miles and put on your table. Seems impossible, but it is easy to do in the form of book or picture. For 50 cents, we'll send the season's novelty. A beautiful colored view of Grand Canyon of Arizona, uniquely mounted to reproduce the marvelous canyon tints. So you can get a print of the Grand Canyon, but you can't see what the print looks like before you buy it. Not even any idea of what it might look like, but I'm sure it's beautiful. This page to me seems more ad than instructions, but I love it. So here we have, I have a very big question on a deodorant, especially after wearing my wrapper in the summertime. I got very warm and I perspirated, and it makes me want to look more into dress shields and I guess how they kept from smelling really badly in the hot summers. And this says sweetness in the armpits, on the dress shields, body, feet, and clothing, spiro powder. Dusted on the skin and fabric, it positively removes and prevents every body odor. Instantly relieves tired feet. Wow, so you remove odor and relieve tired feet. Makes one cool, sweet, and comfortable. On sale at drug, toilet, and Notion counters everywhere. 25 cents. I wish I knew what was in it. I would love to try it. Unless it were particularly hazardous to the health. Look at this one. I've never seen an advertisement like this one before. This is Mielinks Cheval Mirror. It's so convenient to dress the hair, adjust the waistline, collar, and hat that you'll wonder how you ever did without it. As a shaving mirror, the men will appreciate it too. It has numberless other uses and it's artistic ornament in any room. That is amazing. So a way for you to be able to dress your own hair and see the back of your hairstyle. So I guess you don't really need help with dressing and styling your own hair when you have this mirror. Oh look, and we have another skirt, waist, and holder. This one, I think I understand how it works. You have these tabs here where you hook your skirt at the back into your waist, but that seems like you have to sew them in. Just 4 thin plates of aluminum, cannot rust or soil. 2 sew to the waist, 2 to the skirt. Have round, smooth edges, slip skirt pieces behind waist pieces, and it is on. No teeth, hook, or projections. Can be washed, passed the wringer, and ironed over freely. Oh, here we have some stocking hose supporters. I've tried these out too. Mine were slightly different than this, but I also had these clasps, so you don't have any pins or buttons or hooks, no sewings, no belts, no pads. You just hook them on. So this is almost exactly like the garters that I tried. Very nice. Okay. Oh, and now we get into more of like the crafts portion, I think, of this magazine. So we start with modern lace making, which is just, I wonder if based on the instructions in here, I could ever learn how to do this. So this is an Irish point collar. I know nothing about Irish point, so it'd be interesting to sit down one of these days and see if I can understand how to make this lace just from the instructions that are given here. Human hair. Fadeless switches, $1 and up according to size, sent on approval. We have a natural wave pompadour for $3. The transformation, adapted for covering gray and streaked hair, $8. Send sample of hair with order. You have this transformation. I think this is the transformation where you basically cover all of your own hair with this hair piece and you send in a sample of your own hair. What if all of your hair is gray though? Oh, and this is my section. This is the section on knitting, of course. On the left, we have a big advertisement for Fleischer's yarn, worsted yarns, which is the best. They're made from selected wools, carefully spun, and have a lofty elastic thread. They are made in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and what makes me particularly excited to see this advertisement, something I haven't shared generally with you all, is that I was given a sample book of Fleischer's yarn from the 1920s. So I have actual samples of 1920s manufactured Fleischer's yarn in their original colors that I can touch, feel, and they are amazing and absolutely fantastic. If you want to know more, you can head over to my Patreon. I'll be doing a more in-depth post on those yarns that I got in the sample because it is just an amazing book. So here we have the knitting section. And you can see all the different abbreviations used in knitting. I like that they have that section at the beginning of this each time. And a description of what stars or asterisks mean. It is very important. And what I definitely noticed about this 1903 copy of knitting instructions is that it is mainly instructions on how to do trimmings. And then all this knitting is a narrow knitted edge. That actually looks really cute. I haven't done anything like it. This weeping willow lace, this looks different from any other lace I've seen in any other knitting patterns of the time, and I really like the effect. It's a little bit more geometric. I love it. Then we have shell and shamrock lace. This looks a little bit closer to some lace I've seen, although still a different effect. So I like kind of the variety that you can see here. Besides this advertisement, which makes me very excited, we also have the dress and corset protector. So better and cheaper than dress shields, being a complete garment, always ready to wear with any dress. The only protector that can be worn with shirt waist without sewing in. So this is, I knew about dress shields and I knew about corset protectors. And this, to me, it seems like we have a combination of these powders and dress shields or corset protectors or a garment like this that hides your perspiration and keeps you smelling nice. So that would be an interesting project for me in the future, is to try out one of these kind of dress shield, corset protector, powder combinations and see how well it works and how comfortable it is to have that much, I guess, extra fabric up against your skin. And it seems like some of the dress shields were even rubberized on the inside so that you didn't get any of the perspiration coming through onto your dress. So how comfortable is that and how effective is that? I'm very curious. As we flip through, we see more advertisements. Corticelli silk. I recognize that name. They created a few different pamphlets as well as on how to use the Corticelli silk and crochet and knitting patterns. We have more corset advertisements. I like this one. It's a body brace and health garment, but they really highlight the hair in the advertisement here. So it seems like if you wear this body brace, your hair is going to be this long and full. Oh, here's a corset. What is this? This is the bust girdle. How comfortable, says every woman who wears the Grecian bust girdle. It bestows not only comfort but grace, for it retains the natural position and outline of the bust and allows perfect freedom in every movement. It is the ideal of a perfect garment for negligee, evening wear, athletics, for all wear, for all women. No binding, no steals. Supports skirt and hose, launders, for hygienic, maternity and nursing purposes, simply indispensable. Lightest, softest, coolest of all garments for warm weather. Recommended by physicians, approved by thousands of delighted wearers. Made in bust measure 30 to 50 inches. Look at this. I've never seen anything like it. So this is the bust girdle, which can be used to support your bust and as an alternative to a corset. Oh, I wonder how this would feel to wear. How fascinating. And you can see how it closes up on the back, and then you have these tabs, I'm guessing, to support the hose and the skirt. Yeah, because you can see here on the side, this tab supports your skirt. Observances of society, hints about conversation. I feel like I need this, especially after the ending of quarantine and isolation. I feel like all of my social skills are completely gone. Not that I had many to begin with. Self-consciousness is one of the obstacles to success. Yes. It makes one awkward in manner, timid at the sound of one's voice, fearful of expressing an opinion. It is selfish and should be overcome, and the only way is to forget oneself. To be sympathetic is one of the first conditions in conversation, which means to be willing to talk on subjects which are of interest to others, to hear what others have to say, to take an interest in their opinions and feelings. Subjects to be avoided are private affair, illness, servants, food, household difficulties, disagreeable happenings, etc. Wow, don't talk about the servants, I guess. Jeez. Amusing subjects are pictures, music, literature, travel, horses, golf, tennis, houses, and flowers. Intelligence, a good mind, a desire to learn, a determination to improve oneself are aids to success in conversation as well as in life. I feel like there's some truths, but then also very uncomfortable parts to that. Do you want to become a nurse? I find this interesting. So you can become a nurse. We teach this profession by mail. Oh my gosh. Do you want to learn how to be a nurse by mail? That sounds, I guess it depends on what the nurse is doing, but an interesting correspondence course. This ad, I think, is my favorite. It's a strike against drudgery. Perline is kind to fabric. So it says that Perline persuades the dirt away and by dissolving cleanses. It seems like she is so ready to get rid of her washboard that she has taken an axe to it. I don't think I've ever felt that passionately about any of my items that I need for my chores, but I get the frustration. It's definitely a strike against drudgery. These advertisements are so fascinating to me. Just the range of things that you get exposed to here. Oh, wow. Men's corsets, an absolute necessity. Accepted in Paris, London, Vienna, and Berlin as a practical, hygienic aid to poise and good appearance. Dictated by physicians, common sense, and fashion. Wow, look at that. Look at that corset. American gentleman corset. Strengthens the spine. Does it, though? Persuades upright shoulders and increases the chest. I like all these claims. It seems to me like false advertising is not really a problem. Of course, you also have the American lady corsets, but I like how men's corsets is like the big overarching attention grabber, for me at least, on this one. And then we have typically in the back a whole lot of designs all together that you can order with a number, and a bunch, of course, of advertisements again, ostrich feathers, sewing machines, body braces. Pneumatic bust forms. Light as air, cool, healthful, durable, give unequaled style, grace, comfort, and the admirable and superb proportions of the ideal figure. So I know that there's chest padding and different paddings, but this one I haven't heard of before, which is pneumatic. So basically it's a balloon, literally a balloon. Worn with or without corsets. In bathing, they can't be detached. Buoy the wire and make swimming easy. Can you picture that if you're wearing basically balloons in your chest to fill out that pigeon front look, and then swimming in that and basically wearing your bust improver as a flotation device? I love this advertisement. That is fantastic. And I think that is it. We just have one more corset advertisement on the back, and that is the end of this magazine. I hope you enjoyed going through this magazine together with me. I really like looking at the details of this 1903 copy of the Delineator. Please let me know what you think, if you have any questions, or if you enjoyed watching something like this, and if you would like to see more. I have magazines from the 1860s, 1880s, 1890s, 1900s, 1910s, and I have a bunch of different antique books and things like that as well from this time period that we can go over more detail, that we can read and look at together and enjoy together, hopefully. So let me know if you enjoyed this. I would like to share more if you'd like to know more and like to see more, and feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you again very, very soon with more knit and crocheted items.